Anyone heard of this book? It's a bestseller. It's rubbish. Why? Because it leaves out the most important conclusion. Robert Louis Stevenson said, "The worst, most dangerous lies are often told in silence." Why do I say that? Because, Haribo, nice to see you preach. If we leave out what Divya said, it's not that science is a means to an end. Science means to know also causality. Yeah. We've lost the thread. Hook, line, and sinker. We don't know what is the causality of even the most basic things. What is the cell? Now, James Gleek, why is this rubbish? Who would like to take a stab at heading me off at the pass or filling in the blanks of why I say this book is rubbish? It's okay because it introduces the reader to the subject, but it leaves out the most ironic, the most fundamental, important punchline of the entire discipline, which is that chaos is ironic. Why? If you read, for instance, Stephen Hawking's brief history of time, or a briefer history of time, which was a second edition with Leon Mlodinow, or if you read Black Holes and Beta Universes, he makes this wild, flailing, hysterical assumption that chaos and errors and things like mistakes and random singularities can cause biocomplexity. That's not science. We don't know that. We can't substantiate that with anything other than the lull of words, the slippery, lazy love affair with language. It's not causality. It doesn't actually explain anything. It just creates more question marks. Why do I say that? For instance, in Stephen Hawking's, and I'll get to the point of how this relates to Krishna consciousness shortly, but I just want to show you how many different ways we're being cheated, and we're paying them to ignore these causalities for us with our taxes, right? They're going to build an even bigger collider, right? They said they might create a black hole. And remember, after they spent $450 million with that new refurbishment down there in CERN, Geneva, the Crystal Palace of hopeful science, they told us they might have a Big Bang, they might have a new singularity, a new universe might be born in our laboratory. We might have, what was some of the other things? There were 6 or 7 different possibilities, or it might be a failure. Nothing could happen. Who could get away with that? What kind of business could you run in any other discipline of the world and give yourself that much latitude for failure and still get paid? I don't know about you. I work on the Hare Krishna farm. If I don't get results, I don't keep my job. And I look after cows. We have one cow. Can you all pray for us? We have one cow. Her name is Anahata. She's got squamous carcinoma in her eye. Inside the eye, there's a nerve, the optic nerve. It's the busiest nerve in the whole body. It regenerates every 48 hours. It's so busy. And that, if cancer gets there, it goes straight to the brain. And they're terrified. And they want to operate on her with radiotherapy, chemotherapy. They want to take the eye out. They want to dig away the atom. Oh, it's scary what they want to do. But I'm treating her with wheatgrass and natural homeopathic treatments, and it's stable. It's a very opportunistic form of metastatic malignant cancer. Could we all say a prayer? This is the kind of science that we need, where we actually get results, because we rely on the intelligence of nature. We're not interfering. And my local vet says, please keep a photographic record, because if you succeed, I'm going to tell all my friends about it. Because people don't treat cows. Cows are commodities. It's just a profit machine. And as soon as it gets sick, whoosh, finished. No treatment. So I'm lucky because I'm not competing against too many people. Now, getting back to the point, why is it important to actually point out how we're being cheated when Stephen Hawking talks about chaos as a causality, and James Gleek talks about it as a causality? But guess what? Who invented the first fractal and talked about chaos in the beginning? Anybody know? Who was responsible for the first fractal?
Mandelbrot.
Mandelbrot, well spotted. Benoit Mandelbrot. This is a polymathic genius who was hated by mainstream Hare Krishna the scientific community because he was so intelligent he could walk into a discipline like fiber optics and notice a shortfall in the theory or the production of the latest just technological states, and he could actually make an invention or new patents that would tip the apple cart in terms of relative thinking within that discipline, right? And then he would go on to another discipline like liquid crystal displays, and then make the same, pop the balloon, and he would antagonize those stuffed shirts who thought they knew everything about the discipline. And here's a guy who comes along who's not qualified. He doesn't have any letters after his name in chemistry or fiber optics or this or that discipline. He just went like bungee jumping from one discipline to another, to another, to another, and making all these enemies because he was just so smart. You could see the theoretical hiccups or the break in the line of thinking, right? These people are our friends. Why are we hostile to them? Because we're terrified of losing our seats on this little totem of pseudoscience where we think we know. But watch this. Every time you ask a question, watch how quality of questions either open or close doors of cognition. Quality of questions either open or close doors in terms of the quality of our cognition. Did you know that if you put EEG electrodes around your head, or EKGs, or brain scan electrodes around your head, and I were to ask you, for instance, Alexei, what would you do if I slammed on your toe with a hammer? We could observe a very small amount of electromagnetic impulse around the medulla oblongata, which is the quote-unquote primitive fight-or-flight reactionary sense of the brain, right? The cortex of primitive response, right? But if I asked you, what's your favorite color? Then the cerebrum starts to exhibit activity in basically the left side, which is governing the right side of the brain, which is, a little tiny sliver goes off, an electromagnetic impulse. And then what's the response? A neurochemical impulse, which allows us to think and to talk and to speak, right? All those responses are first instigated by a thought quality, a question. And then the question turns into what? An electromagnetic signature. Which means that the electromagnetism is compressed with quality of information content which is dependent on that thought. Observe, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is important because it suggests a causal chain. A chain of cause and effect that starts with what? Thought quality. Right? So if I ask you another question, what are you doing, Alexei, after death? Watch what happens. The brain starts to turn on like a Christmas tree. The cerebellum goes active, the cerebrum goes active, the medulla oblongata goes active, the right and left parietal lobes go active, the occiput goes active. Boing! Atato Brahma Jigyasa. The Vedanta Sutra says, now that you've reached the human form of life, please inquire. So if we stay in that steady state of inquiry, please, Krishna, how may I serve you? Please, Krishna, how may I give this body, which is a network of paths leading to death, if I don't serve you? How can I give my senses to you? How can I give you pleasure? How can I take care of these souls who are standing in front of me suffering so badly? Walk up and down the streets of London or any city. Look how scared people are. Look how traumatized people are. Look how terrified and terrorized and empty and desperate and hankering and addicted and obsessed with lamenting and hankering they are. Mahaprabhu wandered all over India. It was pretty much the known world of philosophy practically, because outside of India, philosophy was way behind what was going on in India. And he converted people with just his kindness and his love and his sharing of the holy name. He didn't go into deep science with that. So in one sense, I'm a little bit deviating from Mahaprabhu's mission. But in another sense, we are corrupted by technocracy. We're polluted with this idea that science will save us. Just a little bit more money, a little bit more weapons, a little bit more funding, a little bit more aid, or a little bit more of the same old, and we're going to get ourselves out of our troubles, isn't it?